Hello and welcome to my video show. I'm Natalie Brynne, and as a piano teacher for over 22 years, I've seen a lot of what stops people from ever getting to freely play the piano, especially in this increasingly busy world with our life commitments and distractions. So, as someone committed to seeing more people be able to play the piano, then I know it's my job to solve the problems that usually stop people. Here is a graphic showing some common challenges that stop even the most well-meaning people from being able to play the way they want. When your goal is to be able to play the piano and you start doing actions towards it, then you can think of it as if you're a car driving along the road on the journey to the destination of being able to play the piano. However, there are many parking spots off to the side of this road where people can end up pulled over, stopped completely, and not getting any closer towards their goal of playing the piano. These parking spots represent the 8 most common challenges that I've seen for adults who dream of playing the piano, but who still can't sit down and confidently play songs they love. You might have the challenge of being overwhelmed by trying to read sheet music, or you might be learning in such a way that you forget, it just doesn't stick in a way that you can remember. You might have the challenge of the cost of piano lessons being too high, or maybe you have no clear path to success. You don't know what to build upon to actually reach the goals you want. Maybe you have time constraints, or you have a lack of a routine and lack of consistency, or maybe you're learning in isolation, or you have self-doubt and discouragement that ends up stopping you. Any one of these things can be a huge barrier to learning piano, but many of us have more than one barrier. Some people even have all 8. So for today's video, I'm going to focus on these 2. When your sheet music is overwhelming, or when you're learning in a way that's easy to forget because it doesn't stick. Learning to read sheet music can be a huge barrier to adults who are barely getting started learning piano. They have so much enthusiasm, they're so happy that they're finally starting down the path of being able to play. But then they quickly learn that there's 2 sets of skills going on. There's the skills that you need to have with your fingers, getting those movements that can feel awkward at first. It takes a long time and a lot of reps for the fingers to start feeling natural in the way they're playing. But then there's also the intellectual skill of being able to read sheet music, decipher what you're seeing on the page, and be able to replicate it on the keys. So adults quickly get overwhelmed because there are 2 very different sets of skills that they're supposed to be building up at the same time. And often learning to read sheet music can take so long and go so slowly because there's so much to take in off the page, like which note am I playing, which key does it correspond to, how long am I holding this note, and they're trying to count and so on. There's a lot to take in that it actually makes it so their physical finger movements are going very slow. You're not being able to build up speed unless your teacher is having you do a bunch of finger exercises, which a lot of adults find boring. They really want to be playing real songs. And often they don't have the confidence at the very beginning in what they're reading enough to make progress on their own at home, so they're kind of stuck having to wait for a teacher to correct them. And if your brain doesn't work in the way that you remember what you learn easily, for example, the way I learn, I have to do it physically over and over and over, and then it finally sticks. So if you're a person like that, you might end up waiting on your teacher, paying for the same lessons over and over and over in order to build your basic skills. So what ends up happening, since it's taking adults so long to be able to be confident with what they're seeing on the page and be able to know how to replicate that on the piano, is that they're also limited to a very small amount of notes on the piano so they can confidently read those notes. Often their fingers stay in one set place on the piano, barely moving out of that position, and that has led a lot of adults to tell me they felt like they were stuck on baby songs. In fact, here is a set of real traditional books that an adult might use when they're going to start learning piano. These 3 books, by the time an adult has gone through them, their hands are barely getting out of that position I was telling you about. They don't get to really play a lot of the very deep notes with a lot of richness and depth and a lot of the really high notes because it's taken them so long to expand the kind of notes they can read. So adult beginners, especially if they're paying so much for lessons over and over, start to feel discouraged sometimes because it can be a long time and they're not playing the kind of songs they want to play. The next thing that happens when adults are taking a while to read through whatever's on their page and play it is they're often playing a song very slowly. They're not getting reps in to move their fingers with any speed. So they're not able to build their finger skills very quickly because their finger skills are only moving in relation to what they can read. This also brings another part of the problem into play when an adult doesn't have a lot of practice time throughout the week. Sometimes an adult might book lessons so that they have that set time every week in order to devote to piano, but they don't get much in outside of that. That's to be commended, that they're making piano a priority and they're making sure it happens every week. But when they're only getting reps in during the lesson, it's going to feel like such a long road. A lot of adults probably quit before they get to the payday of being able to play the songs they love. So here's a blank graph I'm going to use to illustrate how this might look. This is not an exact scientific formula, but it's loosely based on my experience over the last 22 years. So for the sake of illustration, let's say that every 50 specific finger movements in a certain way allows you to play 3 new songs. So like if you got 100 finger movements, you'd be able to play 6 songs, 159 songs, and so on. If an adult is very busy and they're only getting those reps in playing a specific song 1 or 2 times at lessons, then that means it's going to take them half a year to be able to get to those 50 reps. And if they're only able to play it 1 time per lesson, that means it's going to take them almost an entire year to be able to get in those reps, and thus they're learning 3 songs that year. Now if they continue that every year, by year 2 only 6 songs, by year 3 only 9 songs, and what I've seen happen with my students is often they forget these earlier songs if they don't have a reason to keep them up and keep playing them. So it's just a really slow way to learn. And if they were to do that, then even by the end of 8 years of lessons, they'd barely be getting to where they could start playing a large collection of songs. Now what if that same student decides they're going to for sure get in at least 1 or 2 more practice days? That could already make their graph start going up like this. So at the end of 3 years, they're already learning a ton of songs. And if someone was to practice every day, they would learn so many songs in just 1 to 2 years. So let's say that the really good songs that an adult really dreams of playing is somewhere around the 1,000 reps mark. An adult that was only practicing 1 or 2 a week and trying to read the music and going really slow is probably never even going to get to that point. They might quit before they get there. Or they might get discouraged and say something like, well, I've been taking lessons, I don't understand why I'm not better. My point in showing you that is to illustrate how the finger movements are very important, and if you want to read traditional sheet music, then the reps reading the music is also very important. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't go learn how to read music. I am saying that if that is the path you want to take up the mountain to be able to play piano, then you need to know it's going to take several days throughout the week, several hours of practice. You cannot just leave it to 1 time a week and expect to make big progress. Once you have the note reading skills, you're going to be very proud of yourself, because who wouldn't want to be able to open a fresh sheet of music and you know how long to hold the notes, you know which notes to play. You've had enough fingering practice by then that you know which fingers to use. You know how to make it sound connected and beautiful, and all of those skills will come. It's just a matter of whether you're patient enough to wait for that if you're reading traditional music. People severely underestimate this skill and the time it's going to take. While I was teaching, so many times I'd have a student come and bring me a brand new song they were so excited to play. They heard it on social media or they heard it somewhere else and it was impressive, and I would listen to it. My heart would sink a little because I was like, this song is a much higher level than they are at compared to how much they're practicing. So when I offered them to play an easier version of the song, they didn't want it. They wanted that specific song. It might have been in a harder key than they were used to playing. It might have had a lot more speed than they had ever done before, but they would ensure me, they would say, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put in the extra time. I really want to do this. I'm going to have it done by the next recital. And then almost every time the recital would get close, I'd end up scrambling, heavily editing their songs, chopping them down. I call it Frankensteining their songs down just to get something ready that they could play at the recital. There was no way they were going to have that song done. In fact, out of every student I ever had, I can count on one hand the people that actually got in and did the work necessary to learn their song. And some of them ended up pushing it out for a couple extra recitals and then finally playing it. They did not have it done by the one they had originally planned. This is just a human thing. It's like in our minds, we think that we're the exception. We just think we want something so bad that we're going to do behaviors that are different than we've ever done and suddenly get this great result. I'm guilty of it too, especially around New Year's resolution time. I think that this is finally the year. I feel like I'm a new person. I'm going to do this thing. And almost every time I end up kind of bashfully looking around and I've told people I was going to do the goal and I didn't do it. It's kind of like a kid who says, please, 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 can I have a dog? I promise I'll feed it every day. I'll clean up after it. So the parents get them a dog, and what happens? The kid doesn't do it. And it's a constant fight to get the kid to take care of the dog that they were so sure they were going to take care of. When we have real work to do on something to get a result, and when it's hard, our attention wanes. We tend to want instant results. We want to feel successful right away. It's just a human condition. So over the past few minutes, I've painted a picture for you of what normally happens with people who go this traditional route. A lot of times it's discouragement, it's quitting, it's losing steam, it's not having a big collection of songs to be proud of that you can easily go play. And I always say, if you're taking piano lessons, what is the point if you don't feel like you have something to go play confidently? Isn't the point of piano lessons to be able to confidently have a large collection of songs ready to play at any moment? So if you've seen any of my other videos, then by now you know that I've come up with a solution for this. For the majority of adults out there who are not going to stick with learning how to read music as long as it will take to play what they want to play, then you're going to need music that is not overwhelming. You're going to need music that shows you exactly what to do in a way you can remember, in a way you can replicate, so you know what you're doing at home and make progress on your own. So basically, fast forwarding through the last several years, when my students needed to learn something quick, I would start sticking post-it notes all over their songs with some of the fingering, with some of the notes, how long to hold things, with some of the reminders of what pattern they were playing or how long to count something. And I would tell them, every time you see a post-it note, just imagine it's my voice reminding you what to do so you can succeed at this, so you can do it over and over at home. And I told them that once they learned it really well, they could just peel off the post-it notes. But most students actually ended up wanting them to just be left on in case they got out of the habit of that song. Then when they got it back later, they would remember exactly what to do. So my solution to this huge problem is Piano with Ease music, where I actually already made the song with the notes on it that I used to write for my students a lot. This is a stage 1 song in Piano with Ease. The right hand always stays in one 5-finger position the whole time. You'll see every fingering. This is so you can build a ton of confidence with your right hand in one position while you're learning to go to different chord positions, which already give your song so much depth while you're playing. And then we even learn how to put patterns in the very beginning chords. You'll always see something visual when you're supposed to hold a beat. So someone doesn't rush right through playing, they'll know exactly how long to hold every note out. So instead of having to memorize a whole note has 1, 2, 3, 4 counts, you can just play a note, play, hold, 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 and then go on, and you know you're holding the note for the right amount of time. When students got into stage 2, their right hand learned to move all over the piano, and I would put helpful visuals on the page like an arrow pointing up whenever their hand was supposed to move somewhere up the piano out of their 5-finger position. You can see all the notes are inside the note heads now that they're moving their hand around the piano, so they had no questions whatsoever which note they're going to. They're not accidentally going to be practicing it wrong all week because what they need is on the page in front of them. They see when they're crossing, they see when they're doing a certain move like squishing, and they're already playing a song like Pachelbel's Canon, which is usually out of reach for a beginner because it's in such a wide range of notes and because they've learned where to put a pattern in, such as this example. When they get in the Piano with Ease stage 3, every single black note is marked, whether it's in the right hand or the left hand, so they know exactly what to do without having to remember complicated key signatures, remembering and memorizing which notes are to be made sharp so that they can succeed at home. This also allows songs that would have normally been out of reach, like For Release that everyone knows and loves. When they get in Piano with Ease stage 4, they learned how to play chords that are also inversions, and they even have the stack of notes out to the side that they can use to correct themselves without having to go find a chord chart or doubt the way that they're playing it. And inversions can make a song sound so beautiful. In Piano with Ease stage 5, all the things you become used to in the right hand that made it so easy to learn, like the letters inside every note, every fingering, like every black note, everywhere you're supposed to hold a note. It's all written in to help you learn the two different parts so easily and be able to put them together, which again leads to more complicated songs like this minuet in G minor. Minuets are usually after someone's been in piano for a lot longer. So over the years, we've now done over 200 songs in the Piano with Ease style. Many of them are beloved songs that people know and love, like Hallelujah, the Braveheart theme, Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Sting's The Fields of Gold. There's a lot of songs already available that adults can have the confidence to dive in and know they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. The other part I've made for all of my students so they can know exactly what they're playing is correct is a recording of every single song along with the metronome at a regular and at a slower speed. So they'll have something to play along with hands apart or with hands together. They can see the key I'm playing lighting up to be able to self-correct and ensure they're playing the right note. And by playing along, they learn the correct rhythm, which is very important. That's really hard to correct on your own at home and make totally sure you have the right rhythm if you don't have a recording of the song to listen to in your regular traditional lessons. One of my goals is that my students aren't only limited to the songs that I've already made in the Piano with Ease style, but one of the trainings we have in Stage 5 is how to actually go out into the wide world of songs and find the songs that you really do want to play. And now that you've already learned some Piano with Ease tricks and tips, then you will be able to take those on with you into the songs you find and help them be easier to play there. Something exciting to share with you is my piano course has now been completely moved over to my community in school. And now there's actually 3 tiers set up, with the first one at this time being free. I won't keep it free forever, but I really wanted a lot of people to be able to come in to try a song or two in the Piano with Ease style to get a little taste of some of the lessons that you're going to have in there. And then if you love the way you learn, at this time I have the whole Stage 1, which is over 35 songs. It teaches you a lot about your hand position, your posture, sounding smooth and connected. You learn about the left-hand chords and the different patterns that you can put in place of just playing the regular block chord. All of this is just $8 a month at this time. Again, I'm going to raise it in the future, but since this tiered community is just starting out, these are my specials right now. And then to get all 5 stages, I've priced it at only $37 a month. This is actually cheaper than one single piano lesson that you could book with a one-on-one teacher. The average cost per lesson, at least here in the United States, is $40. So for less than the price of one lesson, you can learn all month. You can repeat things. You can have a real teacher to play along with and to ask questions of me in the group, so you won't have to do it alone. My goal for everyone who learns in the Piano with Ease method is that they can have a huge collection of songs. After you're done going through the 5 stages, I have no doubt that you will be able to look at any of the 200 plus songs I've already made, and you'll know how to work your way through. Most people learning traditional music cannot say that because the new music looks too overwhelming. They're not sure they're playing the right things. They wait for a teacher. So for much cheaper and much less time, you can be playing through a huge collection of songs that leads you to the place where you'll know how to go out and find the songs you really want to play and how to put the principles you've learned here into those songs. So the problem I solve for you is basically speed and confidence. Speed in learning songs, confidence in that you know you're doing the right thing, confidence in that you can build up a large collection of what to play. And the great news is, just like you saw in the examples of the different stages, if it's your goal to actually learn to read sheet music eventually, you can use a lot of what you learn in here to help you in real sheet music. You can picture some of the visuals that you had when you're playing a left-hand pattern. You'll recognize it as one of the patterns that we've talked about a lot. I think it's going to help you in whatever path you go for your ultimate piano journey. So to basically sum up this whole video, we've talked about should you use traditional note reading when you're learning piano or not. I hope by now you can see that if you're dedicated, if you have hours a week to practice and you're willing to do what it takes to learn to read traditional sheet music, if you have a teacher that's there to be able to correct you whenever you have questions and ensure that you're doing things right, go for it. You're going to be so proud of yourself when you can open up any piece of music and play it, but it will probably be years if you didn't get any chance to already start pre-learning that when you were in lessons as a child or something. If you know yourself, if you know you won't have the patience to do that, if it's already been a really late start, just give yourself the permission to dive into Piano with Ease and see what you can learn. I'm so excited for you to come into the Piano with Ease group, so I will see you there. The links are all down in the description.